You got any questions for us?
Yeah.
What do you guys like? What is your goal for media and lacrosse? I think that's something that definitely across the league.
Fame. You should ask.
Fame.
Just fame.
Fame.
Yeah. You pick,
Just,
I hate to break it to you. You picked the wrong sport.
You're listening to the Stripped Podcast by the Lacrosse Flash, talking all things life and lacrosse with Tyson Geick and Colton Clark. Once again.
All right, boys. Cheers.
Well, cheers.
So from the Calgary Roughnecks, we have Christian Del Bianco. 5 Minto Cup appearances, 2 Minto Cup championships, 1 NLL title, and the youngest NLL netminder to ever win a title. Welcome, Christian Del Bianco.
Oh, thank you for having me, guys.
Thanks for coming all the way down from God's country, right?
Yeah,
God's country.
Coquitlam, center of the universe.
I got to say, you know, when we started this podcast, I think you were probably one of the first guys that came to mind and that we thought about having sitting here because, you know, you're a soundbite machine and a tweet machine, I guess. You come up with a lot of great things to watch and just listen to. I think you're great for the game. You just have this kind of confidence about you, and it makes you a successful netminder. You just came in and didn't even miss a beat when you did come into the NLL. But let's talk about that confidence and kind of where that comes from and how do you establish that level so quick in your career?
I think it's just something definitely that you don't see guys around the league, especially in the goalie position, who are successful by being passive, right? Like one guy for me, especially that I kind of watched growing up, he's kind of like one of those studs is Dylan Ward, right? Yeah. I don't think Dylan Ward kind of sits there thinking, oh man, I don't know if I'm that good, right? Like you have to have that little bit of, pardon my language, but fuck you in your step.
Yeah, no.
And confidence as a goaltender. And that's something that I've kind of always thought through and tried to keep it in my game.
Yeah, I can definitely attest to that. I went to school with D Ward, played 4 years in university with D Ward, and he definitely has that I don't give a fuck attitude. Sometimes to a fault. I think sometime in college he got benched a game for having that kind of I don't give a fuck attitude. But
I mean,
look into that, but I'm pretty sure that's true.
He's proven himself since.
Yeah, he's absolutely.
And he's one of the best for a reason, right? Field, box, anything. So.
Yeah, he is quite the talent.
No, I think it's just an interesting topic when you get into it. I mean, like the psychology of sport, and I think that confidence is such a big part of it. So, you know, when you're sitting there in the net, you give up a couple goals, you just let it kind of slide off you.
It's all body language, right? So say I get scored on and I'm slamming my stick or picking it up, throwing it in the corner. What do you think the other team's thinking?
Yeah.
They're like, we got you. They're laughing, right? They're going to the bench. They're all kind of doing the pigeon swing by, chirping you, right? Yeah. So I think it's just one of those things where you just stay not too high, not too low. And
yeah, you definitely get on the goalie when he's down.
100%, right? Yeah. And rightfully so, man. Like I love, like if I let in a couple bad goals and if somebody scores like a backhand on me and they're chirping me, like part of that fires me up. I'm like, you know what? Fuck, good for you, man. Like, but like part of it, right? It kind of gives you that little bit of edge. You're like, you know what? Screw this guy.
I'll be sure to throw it behind the back on you this summer.
Yeah, good to know.
Oh, so you're playing?
Yeah.
He's playing. You heard it here.
This just in.
Open for
a lot of people care.
Trade talk.
Yeah, trade talk is.
Your resume obviously doesn't hurt there, right? Like you were so proven at the junior level, and you had so many people talking. I don't know if there was a goaltender that was so highly touted coming into the NLL before.
I mean, I think a big part of that for me was just I benefit from location where I was born, right? Yeah. The teams that I played with, like my first year junior, if you look into that, like our lineup was absurd on the back end. Like we had Mike Messenger, Challen Rogers, Taylor Stewart, Jordan Magnuson. It was like an NL defense.
Yeah.
Honestly, a breakout, like Pat Coyle half the time would just tell me, just throw the ball like within a radius and Challen's going to get it. So, you know what, that always helps kind of start it off, but it's just definitely a culture that we had there and built, and it was pretty fun to be a part of.
That's unreal. I mean, quite an experience to have, obviously, and then followed that up with the NLL championship, which is...
Yeah, let's get into that a little bit. You're taking on the Buffalo Bandits there, and I think a lot of people had them picked. You know, I was a big fan of the Calgary Roughnecks and the talent that you guys had in that locker room. It never seemed like you were able to live up to the expectations that were behind you, but you went in that season. Something changed that second half. What was that? What was the turning point there?
I think we just clicked, right? And I think something that we kind of always joked about is it's really easy to be a good team when everything's going smooth, you're winning every game, right? And I think we battled through a bit of that adversity at the start of the league, or start of the year, where it kind of sucked, stuff wasn't going great, and guys didn't get at each other's throats, right? We stuck together, and then obviously once the ball started rolling, we just were clicking.
What were the nerves like going into that final game?
Oh, I was pissing my pants.
For you?
Actually, I think it's one of
You
those
gotta
things,
be.
right? You go in there, you're not showing it, but you get in there, you're looking around, you're like, man, this is pretty cool. Like this,
17,000 people in the
And,
crowd.
and
You're
to
like,
do it at home,
fuck, every shot.
Yeah. But that's like the best part of goaltending, right? Like you go in there, like there is not a single thing in the world I'm thinking about other than stopping a ball, right? Like it doesn't matter how shitty of a week you had, like what's going on with life. You're in the moment, you're playing, right? And it's just kind of that pure focus.
You're playing at the Rough House, obviously an amazing spot. I haven't had the opportunity to go there yet, and it's something that I really want to do because it looks like probably top 3 barns.
I would say top 1.
Top 1?
Yeah,
okay.
it's a pretty spectacular building.
So let's take a step in Christian Del Bianco's shoes here. You're sitting between the pipes. You're playing Buffalo, and the crowd is probably electric and super loud. Do you just kind of like block them out at that point? Like, do you hear silence, or do you feed off that?
I think it's kind of one of those things that obviously you feed off, right? Any big goal, any big save, right? But I think especially at that kind of game where it was so tight, everyone's so locked in. Like you could be playing that game in a arena beer league and it wouldn't matter, right? Or the biggest venue in the NLL. It was just so intense, and I think it just made it that much more special when we came out on top.
What was your preparation like going up to that final game? Like your nutrition, are you working out that week before the games? A big question is with professional athletes at the top of the level is, are you having sex the week of, the month of? I heard you got a girlfriend. You don't have to answer this question, but a lot of guys some people believe, maybe no sex, you abstain from sex for a full month, you abstain from sex the entire time you're training,
No, I think the old adage is no sex on game day, right?
No sex. Yep. Some people say the week of, I heard a podcast with Brendan Schaub, I think it was, and he was saying, lots of fighters don't fight or don't have sex the week of. So
I didn't see that.
You don't have to answer the question, but you have a girlfriend, don't you?
I have a huge girlfriend guy.
So were you fucking the week of?
I mean, I think anything is pretty much okay as long as you're staying hydrated. We'll leave it at that.
Okay.
But I think especially all jokes aside in my position, right? You're definitely making sure you have enough water and making sure you're ready to go, right? Not having too much pre-workout. So you go out there just jumping off the walls. And
What does your training schedule look like? Because I would imagine it's a little bit different from the guys who are running up and down the floor all the time. Obviously, you've got to be in shape as a netminder.
Yeah.
It's a tough position. You're drenched at the end of a game, but is your conditioning any different?
You know what? You'll rarely see me in a gym, and everybody knows that.
You and Dane Dobie?
All the boys, we're on the same workout plan, right? Maybe a little different diet, but the one thing for me is I'm in the net 2-3 times a week during the week also, right? And that's something kind of I've always believed in is the more time you're in net, the more work you're putting in. Like I've never heard of somebody who got worse by practicing too much, right? So that's just something that I've always believed in.
So you don't find that your lack of gymming, so to speak, has any effect on your gameplay, or you think that it could,
I think within reason, right? Like I have a dog too. I run with that all the time, right? So you get a little bit of cardio in, but it's definitely nothing that is too crazy.
That's a good one for young up-and-coming netminders. I know we were talking about Dylan Ward. Dylan Ward also goes by that same policy. As he doesn't work out too often either. So
guy?
big video, big reps guy. Maybe that's something with goalies.
Mental reps.
Maybe mental reps. And
Delbs, when you look at netminders coming up through the ranks now, I would think, and we talked about this with Dixon a little bit, but there might be a little bit of a goalie shortage. Especially with expansion coming now, you see teams struggling to string wins together without extremely strong netminding. It's just tough to go for a title without it. What do you think the future is with goaltenders out there? And if it's expanding to markets in the States, how do they kind of keep up and produce those strong netminders?
I think it's with anything in our league, right? As we get bigger, you don't want to water down the league. I think the big thing is just most times it's with goaltending, even for me, right? It's not like you're getting in that first year and starting. So I think teams got to kind of invest 2 or 3 years in advance, knowing that they're potentially going to need a new starting goalie,
Right.
and getting people along and making sure they're ready rather than just kind of throwing them in the deep end and hoping they don't sink.
You're a guy who's coaching right now too. How do you kind of plan to give back there?
You know what, like I love, especially when it comes to coaching a kid who he wants to get better. I think especially in the goalie position, you find you deal with a lot more mature kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I think just seeing them understand stuff, seeing them put stuff into work and it actually benefiting in games is massively rewarding for any coach. And it's something that I think it helps me learn and it helps me get better, right? Because rather than just going out there and doing it, you're actually thinking the game.
Yeah. With the expansion, kind of staying on that topic as well, you're in the commissioner's chair. You got to put a team in maybe 2 new markets next season. Where are you going and why?
That's a tough question. You know what? I think I'll probably put another team on the West Coast and go back to Portland. I think we're seeing a little bit of success with the Philly Revival here. And then, you know what? I think I'm going another Prairie team and putting a team in Winnipeg.
Nice.
Yeah, that's 2 good calls. I would have said LA, possibly.
It's a massive market.
Stay in the sunshine.
Yeah.
It is a massive market, but
Yeah, it's interesting with the commuting, getting downtown. Like it's not easy on any given night, right?
Yeah.
Like to get in and out of the city.
And I think it's a very interesting dynamic. Like you look at some of the big cities do great.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the bigger cities don't do great. And then there's like small towns like Saskatoon that
Right.
it's absolutely nuts.
nothing else to do
It's
there.
nuts, man.
Halifax
And they
is
love
off
it.
to
Halifax
a great
too,
start.
right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I like Winnipeg for a team. I think that you could get them in with True North Sports Entertainment, which is the Jets organization.
an awesome packaging.
Yeah.
That obviously the commissioner, credit to him. He's having great success with that, right? Getting more NHL and pro level ownership involved.
Edmonton too, if we're looking at another revival. I mean, we could go on all day. I think Nashville is just such
That'd
a
be a good
missed
one, too.
opportunity. And
That
apparently
is.
there was talk of a certain team going there. Didn't work out, but
What certain team?
care to elaborate?
do I have to share?
You do.
For the Swarm
Yeah.
being rumored to have had a home there. Things didn't work out.
Leave it at
On a
that.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
leaving it at that.
that. Lacrosse wise, like where do you see yourself? You know, you're young still. How old are you? 22, 23?
22.
22, 23. So you probably got a long career, but after lacrosse,
Yeah, have you given any thought to that? Like 22, like do you
I mean,
22?
obviously, like if you want to live in Vancouver, you're gonna have to have some sort of real job.
well, unless we talked about the working salaries as lacrosse with Curtis Dixon, it's on the rise. He thinks that it's could be some. Same with Logan Schuss. He said,
And
in
if
the
there's
next
that
10 years.
goalie deficit,
Yeah,
then
well, hot commodity.
is Mike Board going to step up and be like,
I hope
"Oh,
Mike
here
Board's
you go."
watching this.
Yeah. Hey,
Don't worry, I'll send it to you.
Yeah. So what's next?
So what's the answer? What are you
sorry,
doing?
Sorry,
after
well,
10
you got
years?
halfway through. You know what? I'm doing a little bit of home renovation and working with a really good guy right now. So hopefully learn some stuff from him and kind of get into that on my own and do some contracting on the side.
I also saw you like to fix up old trucks or cars. Is that a
I don't know how much
passionate-
I fix them up, but I am an enthusiast of buying them and investing money into them. So that's one of my bad habits that we
Do
have.
you
at the
sell them
moment.
for profit or
You know what? For minimal loss, we'll call it.
minimal
There you
loss?
go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have to put a price on fun.
What level of success do you see yourself getting to? Like, for me, like I want to be a millionaire, but I heard Paul Rabel once say, he just wants to have enough money to get the extra scoop of guac at Chipotle, and not think about it, not worry about it. For me, I want mini fridge money. I want to be able to go into a hotel, get, drunk, raid the mini fridge and not worry about what the bill is coming out. That's the level of success and wealth that I want to get to in
That's
life.
a good goal.
But what about you? You got,
You know,
you got any
like-
lofty goals like mini fridge goals?
At this point, like just being able to move out of my parents' house would be a massive step. So
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
that's the first step is try to be able to afford an apartment or something. And
So in Vancouver, you need to be making at least $100,000.
yeah, bare minimum.
Yeah.
to get like a 1-bedroom.
This took a depressing turn real quick.
Yeah, this is getting real sad.
You're renting, grandfathered into our deal. Yeah, just drink to that.
Should we go back to Lacrosse then?
Yeah.
Most influential player for you growing up.
Yeah.
Goalie, you must have a different look. You know, for me, the guys we look at, guys like
You said
John
Dylan
Grant.
Ward.
Yeah,
What
you know,
was there-
for like a goalie standpoint, that's obviously like a guy like Dylan Ward, Vino, those guys who are kind of at that elite level.
Mhm.
But one of the big ones who I'm fortunate enough to play with, to being a Coquitlam guy, he was a Coquitlam senior player, was Dane Doby,
Yep.
right? Like as kids, we'd go to the game and we'd watch Dane Doby kind of roll around out there. He'd be staying on offense, wouldn't run off the floor, but he was good for like 4 goals a game. It was electric, right? We didn't know any better. We were loving it. So
He gets 1 or 2 of those a year where it's like the whole team's playing down the other end.
Yeah.
Dane's just standing down in
Just
the other
stand
end.
there.
Sometimes it bites him in the ass and they get a goal,
Well,
but
what
other
did-
times it's an outlet to him and he's pretty
what
much
did Dixon
automatic
say?
on a breakaway.
Dixon said he's the fastest kid in the world
out of the gate.
out of the gate.
He's a slingshot, man.
between there and the net. You'll never see
He's
anyone
like a
faster.
pinball.
But
You get him
yeah.
straight to the net, and then it kind of tails around the back of the net, and it's a slow jog back.
Yeah. Let's talk about. I'm sure you've got some great Dane Doby stories from the road, and we got to be somewhat PG here, but we're looking to get some in depth, analysis of just the road stories. So, do you have anything that kind of stands out to you over the past few years?
I think
You've got to have some great stories from the road.
Especially being a rookie, you see things.
Yeah.
I know for me, there's lots of like just
Eye-opening
things. No, just like guys would do funny stuff, like we mentioned about Eli doing stuff. I had guys on my team. One guy I won't mention. You know, I think he forgot his gear at the airport. Had to go back to the airport. Ended up missing his flight. Coming back to the airport again, and then the GM found out about it at the time, and then he got suspended for a game. Like just ridiculous stuff like that. So you got to, if you have any stories that are along those,
you know what? I think that's kind of one of those things where obviously it's the nature of the sport sometimes. I think early on we were playing in Boston, and a player that we'll leave unnamed. A couple guys were just walking home from the bar, not thinking anything of it, and they found said player sitting on a baggage cart from a hotel in a random alleyway sleeping.
Out cold.
Yeah, out cold. It was just a coincidence. They found him along the way, and obviously we're nice enough to give him a push home.
That actually happened to me once, but I woke up in a jail cell. I apparently went outside to go on the phone, and I fell asleep on a car, and I woke up in a holding kind of area, holding cell, yeah,
Drunk tank.
I guess there was like 100 beds in there, and it was an eye-opening experience for me waking up in there. And I remember the guy was just like looking at me in the morning when he was checking me out, and he's just like, "So you live in a hotel?" It's like, "Yeah." He's like, "You're Canadian?" "Yeah." He's like, "You don't have any ID on you?" I'm like, "No, I've lost my wallet." He's like, "You want to pay for this bill now?" Or he's like, "Should I just mail it to a hotel?" I was like, "Yeah, mail it to the hotel."
What was the bill?
Just for the ride there and the overnight stay.
Oh, that's not
it was
bad.
like $400 or something like that. But
That's a lot.
That's an Uber. That's an expensive Uber.
Yeah.
But he's just like, "So I'll just mail it to the hotel yet?" Perfect. Yeah. So whatever the name of that hotel is, probably still has a bill sitting in there.
Yeah.
Dubs, do you have a favorite barn that you like to play in other than the Rough House, like we talked about? That's probably number one, but another city that you look forward to going to as well, just as a whole?
I think consensus. I think a lot of the Calgary guys, just because of our rivalry with Sask.
Oh, yeah?
That's a pretty good barn to go to. Their fans are pretty top notch. Give them credit for that. They're always yelling. They're always chirping. Yeah, they have signs. Like, it's spectacular, right? When you're walking into that atmosphere, they're all going nuts. I think there's something to be said about that as a player, where I think you guys were talking about the other week with the whole old LEC when you're walking into the blue shirt night.
Thanks for
right?
listening, by the way.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah.
But
He listens. Why don't you?
exactly. But I think just having those atmospheres to go into as an away team where it's kind of hostile is awesome, and we're hoping to see more barns like that across the league.
Yeah. What about Colorado?
It's a good one. Loud House is good.
They
Buffalo's good.
they got rid of their hot tub girls. They kind of went to the PC culture.
Yeah, I think that might have been a part of like Junior's contract that they had the hot tub. It seemed like when he went, they went.
So I got a funny story about this one. I'm down in Colorado a couple seasons ago, so not last year, the one before. And I'm sitting there and I'm interviewing Ryan Lee, and cameras are rolling, and I bring up the hot tub, and he stops, just like, and the guy's a rookie at the time, right? Yeah. Just like deer in the headlights, looking at me, and I'm like, "What the fuck's the deal?" He's like, "Yeah, the hot tub's gone. We don't talk about that anymore." And I was like, "Oh shit." So sorry to throw you under the bus here, Leezy, but
so I just brought up a hot topic.
It's a hot, no
talk about hot waters.
Yeah.
Well, I used to warm up. I used to sit in that hot tub before games and get my legs warm as like a hot bath. But
I'm sure they keep it real sanitary. Eh?
Yeah, probably not.
I was in it my first year that I went to Colorado. I was in it with like the the girls on the side. It's like getting holds.
I think they should have just put guys in there with their shirts off too, and it would have been problem solved.
Well, I think
less creepy.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's
a little much
borderline.
But can you imagine, selling that as like a fan package and experience? Because you want to, like, professional sports now, there's so many options. The in-home experience is so good now that you got to give people a reason to go to the games. And like, what if that was the greatest place to go watch? I think you need to go with both sexes in there if you're going to do it, because it's 2020 and people are going to get a little hurt about that. But apparently there was a nip slip, and that's why the whole thing went away.
Oh,
which, I mean, it stinks. And it's not even like, I'm not going to sit here as a creep and be like, oh, I like looking at the girls in it. I just thought it was a cool element.
It was funny,
professional.
Right? Like,
it was something different.
It looked cool. Yeah. Do you remember back in the day? Like, I don't know if you guys remember looking back, but when the All-Star game was a thing.
Yeah.
And I think Stainhouse went and he was like in the hot tub after. That guy is NLL needs to get him on doing. This is besides the point.
Just get a hot tub in every barn.
I think so. I think
hot tubs for everybody. Yeah. Steve, bring it back.
Yeah, San Diego is a perfect spot to have it.
Yeah,
I think they tried to do it in some market, or I don't know, Philly thing. Or, I don't know.
Somewhere else tried to. Back to lacrosse ish. Why'd you choose your number? Did your number choose you?
I think it was just kind of one of those things where only number available in minor lacrosse, and just was kind of always there, so we stuck with it. So nothing special, nothing too superstitious.
Okay.
Other than the fact that it wasn't my brother's number, so that worked.
What was playing for a guy like Pat Coyle like?
It's pretty killer, right? And I think the one thing is I was fortunate enough Pat had a son my age, so growing up he coached us the whole way up, right? And so from having that from a bantam first year level all the way to junior last year, it kind of gets you pro ready. It kind of makes you think the game a little bit more. And like, I don't think that's an opportunity that a lot of other people have to have that caliber coach the whole way up. So very fortunate.
He was my favorite player growing up. And I was, I watched him play, and I was number 2 in both hockey and lacrosse. So I watched him for the Toronto.
Yeah. On the floor, massive.
Him and Joe Bowen hosting that was the best all the time. And it's
every year in junior.
I grew up watching this guy, and then to go back to Colorado again, but we were walking along the side. Ashley Dawkins and I had to do some interviews, and we have like a limited period of time to do this. It was just the two of us manning the cameras, getting the guys for interviews before they go back on the bus and go to the hotel and whatever, and then they're unavailable, right? So I grabbed Shatler. We walk along the side, and meanwhile Colorado's going through their power play or PK or something like that on the turf. And I'm talking to Shats the whole time, and he's looking at me, and there's like, he's not, I can tell he's not watching the turf, because I know how coaches get about that. And then we have an interview. He's turned his back to the floor and stuff like that. And I went down after, and Pat comes up to me and just like, "You fucking idiot." Like, he didn't say, it wasn't those words, but he kind of chewed me out. So it was just funny how I'm like, I grew up watching this guy, and this is my favorite guy. Now he's like giving me shit.
I am a fucking idiot right now.
He's ripping me right now.
You must be right.
I'm a dumb shit. Yeah.
but like,
no, I was like, dude, he wasn't watching. I promise to God he wasn't. Like, I had my eyes on him, but I get it. But with our limitations too, it was just like, it was the only time we could kind of make it happen. But great coach,
huge beauty. And like, I think one of the funniest stories, like with Pat, there's so many things you can go about, but I think every year, especially, we'd have a road trip to Victoria and Nanaimo. Yeah. War on the floor.
Beautiful
Instantly. On the bus?
Great. On the bus. Constantly. Yeah. And then every year, a rookie party would be coming around. And of course, first thing on the list was War on the Floor, signed by Pat Coyle. And
that's awesome.
Not a single year they got it. Every year they'd walk up to him, he'd look at them, give him that, is this a joke? And then walk away.
Speaking of rookie parties, that's a good. We didn't have this written down, but you have any memorable rookie parties? I know for me, one that sticks out in my our newest one was
Frank's
good.
was so good. We painted him in red and did the Kool-Aid Man on his body.
He was jumping in the pool at Rouse's house
and going, "Oh yeah!"
The whole pool was red.
That's a luck.
Frank Chiliano, if you're wondering. That was classic. But yeah, any stories that come on?
I think probably one of the best ones I ever saw is every year it was kind of a scavenger hunt. And Tyler Pace unknowingly hosted the rookie party. And kind of at the end of the scavenger hunt, we end up at Tyler Pace's. And part of the thing was you had to go in front of the vets and sing a song for them. And if they didn't like it, obviously there was a punishment. And Pacer decided to sing Molly Cyrus by Stitches. I don't know if any of you are.
Molly Cyrus?
Look it up.
Okay.
It's a good song.
Yeah.
And he was screaming that in his backyard with his neighbors looking on. So, yeah.
I'm guessing there's some vulgar lyrics.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Just a touch.
Are the cameras still rolling? Ben? Still good?
Yeah.
All right. Fucking A.
We're rolling.
Yeah. Delbs, we on this podcast kind of want to talk about like the NLL and the development of the league. And I think with players who are in the league, it's kind of interesting because they have like an invested interest in the growth of the game. And it's not like the NHL maybe where guys are like showing up, they're playing, they're giving it their all, but they're collecting their paycheck and then they're leaving. They're not as invested in the growth. But guys in the NLL care. So on this podcast, we're kind of throwing it to the players and like, what do you want to see happen? What are your kind of hopes for the NLL and the direction that it heads in?
I think having that experience in Calgary and seeing how professional and how good our ownership is, the more NHL level ownership groups that understand how it works, understand the business of sport, I think that is where we need to head. Obviously, that's something that's kind of a dream world. But I think the other thing that comes along with that, and it comes along with expansion and obviously players wanting to make more, is there's going to be an awkward time period there where maybe we're playing more games and we're not making that much more, right? Because you can't expect anything to happen overnight. So I think as long as we have that type of ownership backing it, I think it's going to put us in the right direction to expand.
So there are meetings. I was talking to Travis Cornwall about this the other day, and we hope to have him on very soon, maybe next episode. But the meetings that go on with the league and that the players actually show up and give recommendations, are you kind of a part of that process at all?
I've never been to one, but Tyler Pace, Zach Courier are two guys that are constantly there representing us. And then obviously before, we were fortunate enough to have Dan McRae, who's top tier for that. So I think we're constantly getting passed down that information, and the PLPA, does a really good job, right, at making sure we're aware. And I think that's something as players we got to hold ourselves accountable, right? You can't just kind of see the email, click it, and then pass it to the bottom of the pile, then complain when you don't like something, right? If you're not staying educated on the topic, just don't have a say on the topic, right?
Yeah.
What about like social media wise, building the brand? We talked about it with Logan Schuss. He's good, and you're good on Twitter. And Curtis Dixon. We've had 3 great guests so far.
Three of the top five,
three of the best, but a lot of the other Canadian guys need to jump on board. I think the PLL does a great job with promoting players and having guys jump on board and promote the brand, promote themselves. How do you think we get other Canadians to do that?
I think big Canadian thing, right, is we have a lot of humble guys, I would like to think. Yeah. So I think
that's a good way
promoting your own brand, I don't know if it's necessarily the way that a lot of guys want to go out there. Nobody wants to go on Twitter and post 18 highlights of themselves and pump themselves up. But I think you see a guy like Curtis who he's constantly interacting with fans. He's saying funny stuff, right? Yeah. And I think just showing your personality and your actual, what your opinions are on subjects across the league is something that's really interesting for fans to see about some of their favorite players.
Yeah, I think across the league and even to other sports, right?
Like Buffalo, I think is a very good example actually. With marketing,
cross promotion, kind of
cross promotion. Like you see, like the Dane Smith and Josh Byrne clips, like unreal. Credit to them, right? Yeah, super funny. Like the more stuff that we can pump out.
You like Dane's World?
Love Dane's World.
You're a fan?
Yeah.
No, showcasing the personality of the game is what the Lacrosse Flash is kind of all about. But I think it's huge, and I think that like if you become a brand, you know, you said guys are humble. They don't want to be pumping their own brand out there. But like, if you become a brand that I want to watch because you got some great takes and stuff, I'm like, fuck, I'm going to give this guy a follow. Yeah. Then all of a sudden I'm seeing Calgary Roughnecks shit all the time. Yeah. And I become a Christian Del Bianco fan.
Yeah.
Bianco, sorry. I missed that one.
It's okay.
No, Christian Del Bianco fan. And, you're much more likely to go to a game and you know, to be sitting in the stands and kind of giving your support. So I think that's where kind of the importance comes in.
It's massive, right? And I think that's another thing where maybe across the board we need to be more accountable, right? As players, where we help promote it, help grow it, right?
I think one of the things that just came into this is now when this episode drops a couple of weeks ago, but the NLL having that partnership with Greenfly. So I guess what the service does, from my understanding, is that it curates a bunch of content directly for you to post on your social media. So you got stuff at your fingertips and it's just ready to fire.
Ready to go, ready to, and league approved. So
is it league approved?
Yeah, league approved probably.
I guess the PLL had something similar in the NLL. It was brought up in the meetings. Mitch Jones brought it up.
Yeah.
Credit once again to Travis Cornwall, but he brought up that stat. But yeah, no, I think that's great and a direction that needs to head in, right, guys? Becoming a little bit more media savvy as well, so they know what to post and make it look professional.
Absolutely. We'll go into a little bit lighter categories now, I guess. Toughest shooters in the league.
Tough shooters.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to give it all away, I guess, but like,
you know, there's some, I think, pretty obvious ones. I think
are they?
Yeah, well, Jammer, right?
Jammer, okay.
Jammer.
He's got that crippler
Yeah.
that's kind of
Mark Matthews, short side high, sting it on the run.
Yeah,
hug that post, buddy.
It's unreal, man. Like you
post.
watch it, right? And he's another guy. He doesn't really look too athletic, but he's this big lumbering body running down the alley. I think Schreiber, and I think one guy that I get a lot of practice against that I sure as you know what wouldn't want to play against is Dixon. That short side, right? Running, just kind of that deceptive release he has. So I think a guy who's, I mean, I don't want to say underappreciated, but like how good of a shooter Graham Hossack is.
Yeah,
on the run, like underhand twister, far side hip is just deadly.
But that's pretty impressive though. How you're able to just, you know, you see it a lot, but you do your study.
He only scored like 4 goals on me in the WA playoffs, so I think you remember it after a couple.
Yeah, true enough.
Yeah, Dixon was a big fan of him too, and
yeah.
Who's in your opinion? Who's the best in the game right now?
I think him. Like I think
Hossack?
I'm not saying most valuable player.
Sure.
But I'm saying the best at what he does. He can do everything, and he's just a monster. And like I think everybody kind of jokes about it. Like he's the Terminator out there.
Yeah.
Like you could grease this guy in the back with like the dirtiest pick in the world, and he's getting up and just kind of calmly looking around, getting back to position, and then throwing you in the corner and running down the floor for a transition look.
Yeah, he's strong as an ox, that guy. He fucked me up a couple times this past summer, which was, you know, embarrassing. You kind of laying there on the ground, but then you watch highlights. He's doing it to everybody, and he's throwing them even farther than me, so I didn't feel too bad about it, but I was embarrassed the one time when he dumped me into the boards, and I was like, oh, shit, and he ran down and scored. I was like,
yeah, man, I
was like, I weigh 205 pounds here. Like, this guy just turfed me like I was a paperweight. Like,
It goes back to what you were talking about, I think, a little bit, right? Like, don't let anything shake you. And in body language, he's got that. Like
he's on, and you know, like, guy can say whatever they want to him. He doesn't care. He's just doing his job. And I think that's something that, like, a lot of guys respect, right? Because he's just out there. He's a killer, right? He's just a quiet killer and stays out of it.
How, we were looking at pictures of your bucket. Who did your helmet? We'll give it a chance for some shout outs too.
Dave Freed in Calgary. Huge beauty. I think this was my 3rd bucket I've done with them.
What's the theme this year that you got?
It's Looney Tunes, right? So we do a massive sponsorship with a great company, Sense Consulting, back in Calgary, where they donate a ton of money every time I get assist, and we auction off the bucket to Kids Sport every year.
I love that. That's
so
awesome.
I think we stay with the kid friendly theme, and I think a lot of the fans back in Calgary appreciate it.
Explain to us a little bit about what Kids Sport is.
Kids Sport is obviously pretty broad. No, pretty broad though, right?
Yeah.
They give kids opportunity who maybe their parents are going through a hard time or they don't have the same privileges that a lot of us had growing up.
Yeah.
So just kind of giving everybody that equal shot to play sports, be involved. And I think the big thing with that is just we can kind of all chime in on it, but being a part of a team, right? And being around all your friends growing up and just how awesome all those memories are. And I think it's really important that every kid has that same opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think you're going to see lacrosse kind of start to thrive there too. It's an accessible sport. It's got to be presented and promoted in the right way to get kids signing up, but like it's much more affordable than hockey.
Hockey's on extreme end of the spectrum, right? And I think
it gets worse and worse as the years go along. If you don't have $5,000 a year to invest in it as a family, and you're going to see a little less and less of that. It's become tougher and tougher to play.
I think my parents are still broke from me. I dropped out in midget.
Hey, financing your kids' hockey.
As we go on in this podcast, we obviously want to get better at answering questions and maybe the order that we answer them in. But for right now, we're not that good at it. So I want to jump back. I want to jump back to a question that I had at the top of the list. Lots of players, lots of lacrosse players, they choose the college route.
Yeah.
You didn't choose the college route, or maybe the college route didn't choose you.
The college route. There was not a school out there that wanted me.
Did you play field lacrosse?
I played field. I played field goalie for the majority of the way up. And then my grade 12 year, I kind of switched high schools. One of my buddies was already a goalie there. So that's when the TAC dream started. And just went out there and didn't see a shot I didn't like.
Oh, shit. And so the numbers, the grades didn't have anything to do with you not getting in?
That was a touch of it. Obviously, my grades weren't substantially presentable, lacrosse player. But I think that definitely wasn't really the main deterrent. There was no interest, right? And I think as a guy who kind of everybody says like, oh, like you're so good, right? You're so great. You kind of feel that outside pressure that, man, I need to be getting offers. I need to be like, right? Because you feel that you're letting people down or you're not doing what you're supposed to. So I think that was kind of something hard that I didn't understand. Yeah. And then obviously it kind of fell into my lap, the whole NLL thing, and had that opportunity. 2020,
right?
It's unreal, right?
Worked out.
And I think just it gave you that opportunity to grow up so much faster.
Yeah, and something they don't really teach you too much as a Canadian is like recruiting tapes, right? For me, I didn't have a recruiting tape, and I went to like one, I think it was like recruitment camp, and the coaches were asking for a recruiting tape of mine. I had nothing. I'm pulling out VHS tapes and trying to figure out how to put together my highlight reel kind of thing for them, and it was like all box clips. I'm like, well, here's me scoring goals. Here's my.
Well, luckily, and this is a little bit more recent, but that's become a lot more valuable to a lot of coaches out there, right? They see the box game and a player who's successful.
They see the Canadians, right? They want that guy in tight.
Maybe not when we were going to school as much. Yeah. Like it started to come on just a little bit after. I think probably after we graduated, then they were really like, oh, these guys are onto something.
And I think there's more resources now, right? Like one guy, Tyler Pace, gonna plug him. Shameless plug here. But Pro Caliber Lacrosse, me, Dixon, Reese Callie's, a bunch of guys we coach there, right? And
that's what this is all about. Feel free to plug away.
You know what? The whole goal of it, right, is to obviously get kids to that next level. And I think the big thing is just giving them the resources and giving them the game film, right, to send to coaches and giving them contact lists and knowing what you're trying to get out of your university experiences. Something we're really trying to work on.
Well, Tyson, you mentioned plug. You have any personal sponsors that you want to shout out while you're on this podcast?
We'll throw PVL, obviously.
PVL?
After we just talk about me not working out that
much. They're rethinking their campaign. They're like, oh.
Well, the supplements are what keep you fit.
But
though,
you know what?
You need protein after a game.
It's BCAAs, pre-workout, right? All that stuff. Just kind of making sure you're ready for game day.
You're working out. You're just not doing the traditional style of bodybuilding as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Keep them on PVL, all right?
If we kind of go back to what you talked about there, you said it was like a little bit tough when you were here and you're so good, like things just weren't working out there. Do you have a time that kind of comes to mind? Like, Stripped has kind of been light so far, but I want to get a little bit deeper into things. Was there a time when things were tough and you had something to really overcome? And
I think just obviously early grade 12 year where all your buddies are committing to schools, right? And you're kind of sitting there, you have nothing, right? So I think it's just understanding that, right? Sometimes in life you're going to work your butt off and stuff doesn't pan out. And you can rather sit there and cry wolf, feel bad for yourself, or you can kind of get back on the saddle and figure it out. So I think that was a massive learning experience for me, especially as somebody who really didn't have that much adversity in lacrosse growing up. So
Yeah,
kinda-
trust the process, I guess.
exactly.
Just because one door's closed doesn't, it leaves a room for another door to open, and it seemed to work out for you so far.
Can't complain too much on that one.
If we get a little bit more into the life stuff, because that's what we do here at Stripped as well. Is there any maybe like how are you spending your time off the floor? What do you kind of get into? Are there TV shows that you might be
You party
into right
a
now?
lot? You party a lot?
Not a lot. Like,
It's not gonna sell
like-
myself out here.
I'm not going to incriminate myself here. Like, Jesus. But you know what? Like, massive dog guy, too. Yeah.
Massive dog guy? How many dogs you got?
I got 2 dogs now. Kind of got the first one, and that's a whole shit show story. Kind of got her off a farm for $200, and she's a bit of a nut bar. And,
Wild.
wow.
yeah, and then the second dog kind of just fell into our life. We joke around that she's a child of divorce, so kind of figuring it out and sticking our parents with it on the weekends.
Oh shit. Well, good luck to you. That's a commitment, that I can't make to the
Lot of
dogs.
commitment for you, eh?
But I also live in an apartment, so we still don't have room. We might get a cat right there.
Cat
I
person?
don't know if we're no
Cat
no
person.
cats here. No cats here. Yeah, TV shows you're into. I just I kind of binge watched the show Euphoria on HBO. It's pretty nuts.
See, like I'm a chronic binge watcher.
Are you?
So like sometimes like it's gotten to the point like Friday Night Lights. I had to Google the ending just so that I wouldn't like ruin my life watching it every hour of the day.
They made it like crack.
It's
like
unreal.
every episode, you're like
Riggins?
more.
Tim Riggins was an
I need to
electric
get into
factor.
it. I've never seen one episode.
Dude, it's so
Everybody
good.
in university was watching it. And
Yeah.
I swear to God, NBC had it down to a science where the teasers at the beginning
Oh.
get you locked in, and you're like, well, I'm not going anywhere for the next.
Yeah.
I
I think another one that I'm pretty big on is Shameless.
Yeah,
Obviously,
that's good.
that's a
you
good one.
watching that one.
Shout out Nanaimo actor.
Oh yeah.
That's for Nanaimo TV show, eh? No offense. With all due respect.
No offense, take it.
Yeah, you was another one. I went
You, yeah.
start to finish on New Year's Day, just like did not move.
Everybody's going nuts on Instagram, Twitter, everything about that one.
What about other than frying your brain, on Twitter and Twitter and staring at Netflix? Do you do anything outside? You go skiing, snowboarding, hiking, biking,
Nothing too much, right? Obviously hiking with the
murder
dogs.
people? I don't know.
Casually.
While we're on the U topic, yeah.
While we're on the U topic. But
Oh,
no,
you got tattoos? Tyson has tattoos.
yeah, big tattoo guy.
What?
tattoo guy.
Do they mean anything, or are they just
Just
from,
all looks.
from
All
Vancouver?
looks,
and-
Vancouver guy.
Yeah.
Typical. But no, obviously something that a lot of guys around the lacrosse kind of just a different way of expressing yourself. And Logan Shush, I think, was another guy you had
Yeah.
on. Massive tattoo guy.
Yeah.
We kind of joke around on Twitter with him and Tyson Bell, trying to figure out who has more tattoos and who's the bigger tattoo guy. So
The Calgary Roughnecks are doing something kind of cool, like on the stripped topic, where I saw Tyler Pace was on.
yeah.
I mean, I was scrolling through Instagram or something, and I came across the pictures. It was like Calgary sharing that. It's weird, this guy with his shirt off, but
new Tinder profile for
there
him.
you go. Yeah.
It's funny, Tyler Pace, actually, I'm not sure if I've ever met him. I might have, but if you look on my phone, if I type in 604, his is the first name that pops up
There you
every
go.
single time. And it's been doing that for the last 7 years. I'm like, how do
It's
they
a
even
sign. Have him on the
how do they
podcast.
even get
Yeah.
Tyler, you want on?
Yeah.
Camera's working. Camera's working. You have any more questions, lacrosse wise,
I wouldn't say lacrosse wise.
life wise?
Tapped into everything there.
You got any questions for us?
Yeah.
What do you guys like? What is your goal for media and lacrosse? I think that's something that definitely across the league.
Funny
Fame.
you should ask.
that
Fame,
we
fame,
can-
just
fame.
fame.
Yeah, you pick,
Just,
I hate
we're
to
here
break it to you. You
we're
picked the
here-
wrong sport.
We're here to get famous. I'll let,
Niche
I'll
market.
let Tyson answer first because
Yeah, this is something that I got involved with the NLL. I grew up watching it, and then I was lucky enough to get a gig with the league a few seasons ago. And I think once you're into it and you've invested a little bit into it, it's tough to get out. Yeah. And when I was no longer with the league after they moved the office to Philly, I took a bit of a break from it, and then I was like, this kind of stinks. Like, I just feel like it's a part of me now, and I want to kind of invest more into it. And I just see that there's a lot of potential with the league for sure. But I thought there was a lot that it just hasn't been done. And I think there's a lot that still needs to be focused on. And you guys need to be given a platform to kind of give, I don't know, just be heard and showcase your personalities. And, you know what, we're obviously not trying to totally copy something like Spit and Chicklets because it's tough to replicate, but everything those guys touch turns to gold right now. And lacrosse doesn't necessarily have anything like that at the moment. So I'd like to kind of, you know, be the first to do that. And I think we're off to a decent start here, but, you know, having guys, we got to thank you for coming on, because having guys like you buy in and kind of understand what we're trying to do here is huge. You know, we want to give you the platform, make you guys look like rock stars, but unless you're here to do it and taking time out of your day, we can't do shit. So,
yeah, like Tyson said, it's more like him and I have been buddies for 10 years now. And we've kind of always been talking.
10 years this summer,
talking back and forth about doing something together. And you know, unfortunately, this year my NLL career came to a halt. Came to a halt. But it gave us a perfect opportunity to kind of start something together. And you know, we both like hearing each other talk. You know, we don't mind seeing what we see on camera. So we figured, hey, a podcast. And we're never, like you said, we're never going to be able to replicate what Spit and Chicklets is doing, because, you know, a lot of what brings in their success is having those old NHL players come on and tell these sex stories and tell these like crazy drug stories, where it's like, you know, those stories may exist in the NLL, but unfortunately these NLL players have real jobs. There's teachers, firefighters, things like that, you know, that like we're not able to tell those stories on these platforms. You know, I'll tell whatever story that anybody wants to hear, but it's also for guys like you that have, you know, sponsors and, you know, you're part of different organizations to tell your story about those organizations. Or if you're starting a, you know, lacrosse camp, you can come on and promote your lacrosse camp. So it's just also, you know, we're younger guys. We're sort of
that's exactly it, right?
Like we're friends. We can talk to you, as opposed to asking those kind of like analyst questions. How do you feel going into this weekend's game?
But I think that's exactly it. Like talking to Curtis, I think he did the week before, right? It's just like, you don't want to answer the same question over and over, saying the same stuff where it's like, oh, you know what, we didn't try hard enough, we'll be better next game, blah, 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 right? Like being able to kind of shoot the shit and tell it how it is every once in a while is refreshing.
And there's already platforms for that, right? So we don't want to step on any toes doing that. You know, Teddy Jenner and Jake and other guys throughout the league do a great job at that. And that's not my forte. Tyson could probably do it, but I could give a fuck less about talking about that kind of stuff. So Tyson may throw in the odd question about your upcoming game or something or past game, but probably will never hear it out of me.
Well, I mean, having you here with us, like I said, it's so huge for what we're trying to do, because you hear the same stuff on you know, the phones, and we're just limited in the lacrosse world with travel and getting guys in market, and there's like limited time to do it. But having someone here to actually sit down in front of us, it makes for a much better conversation, something a little bit more personal, while we have that opportunity to, you know, break down barriers as much as possible. I think as time goes on, we want to try to get a little bit better. So hopefully episode 3 is better than episode 2, and that was better than episode 1. But
we'll end on this. Who do you want to see on this podcast next? Who do you want to see on this podcast next? And I'll tell you.
Okay.
That's one person?
Yeah.
I'll go first.
Hold on. We'll start with you.
I'll go first. I'm going to say Eli McLaughlin. I think obviously a pretty exceptional player, and I think he's a little different off the floor. So just another guy, another kind of personality to have on, and obviously the on floor's there. So that's my take.
Nice.
Yeah, I discussed those limitations that we have in trying to get guys who are kind of in market and stuff like that. But we do have D Ward and Coates coming this weekend. This will be released a little bit later, so it'll be a couple weekends ago. But yeah, they're coming here this weekend, and hopefully we can kind of nail those guys down, because I think they've got some solid stories from Colorado. Yeah. And D Ward, he doesn't talk too much on Twitter, but when he does, it's
pretty good take.
Gold.
Yeah.
And yours?
Hashtag trade D Ward.
Hashtag trade Ward, right?
I'm gonna go off lacrosse here.
Yeah.
This one's a big fish, guys.
All right.
This is a big fish.
Are you trying to get Joe Rogan in market here?
Joe's coming to town at 4:20. We can get him on.
Is it 4:20?
Yeah, he's coming 4:20. You know, fortunately, my roommate is working with the Vancouver Canucks, and he's also working with the Vancouver Warriors. And he's working side by side with a guy named Paul Bissonnette, or AKA Biz Nasty. And that's a lofty goal, but I think he might be able to sneak into his back pocket and maybe whisper in his ear that he might be able to get him on this podcast, or we might have to pay him, but so be it. But that's my lofty goal for this podcast. Maybe we can get him on, maybe not. If not, lacrosse player wise, I would like to see probably Cody Jameson sitting here.
I think Jamer would be pretty good. Actually, we just posted a clip on Lacrosse Flash from Off the Crossbar, and that clip blew up. He was talking about using a tree as his kind of like wall ball target, which is cool to hear about. Like nothing can hold
just making it work, right?
Yeah. He's an impressive guy. Anyways, Biz, if you're listening, trying to do something cool here with lacrosse. We've obviously been involved in our sport now for a couple weeks.
Yeah, 3 weeks.
3 weeks. It'd be pretty cool to have you on your, I don't know. Once again, everything those guys touch turns to gold right now. So come and give Stripped your golden touch.
Well, thank you, Christian, for coming on, man. We appreciate it 100%.
One last thing.
Oh, he's got giveaways.
Yes.
Giveaways.
How could we forget?
I got one more thing after that, too. Not to story top you, but actually, we'll do this before. Shout out.
Fuck me, right?
Shout out if anybody watches Joe Rogan podcast or anything like that. He's got a guy on there named Jamie, his audio guy. Well, guys, we got an audio guy. His name is Jamie. His name is now Jamie, a.k.a. Ben Jeffries.
We're turn the camera. There's Ben. He's doing all the work.
So if any big companies are watching him, he's the one doing all the audio work. So if you like it, holler at him.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to have one episode released, but to have a little bit better of a setup here, and it allows us to kind of be at ease with what we're producing. But so the giveaway, you got a quarter zip
and a hat
to give away. So we're gonna make this a little bit more clear this episode, because it hasn't been the most clear. We've been fumbling. Making it work. So here's what you got to do.
We'll post a picture of Christian with it, because he doesn't have them with him. They're in his truck.
Right. So we're gonna post a picture on our Instagram account with Delbs here holding the gear. All you got to do is give Lacrosse Flash a follow. You can toss him a follow as well, and tag 2 buddies, and that gear, Calgary Roughnecks gear, could be yours.
That's it. Well, I'd say cheers at elbow. So.
Boom. Delbs, thanks again, man.
Nope. Thanks for having me, boys.
Thanks for listening to the Strip Podcast. Catch a new episode every Wednesday. We're giving away prizes every week. Follow along with our social channels at Lacrosse Flash.